Hi there, Christian Henson from Spitfire Audio here, and it's here. This is it. The missing link in the composer's arsenal, the most famous string sound in the world. Something that is so utterly British, with a slight stench of rock and roll to bring us, I think, one of the most contemporary sounds that we've ever made, certainly for a string library. And the architect of this is our very own Paul Thomson. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good. I mean, this is just... We've been hacking around this for 20, 25 years, haven't we?
We have, yeah. It's been really hard to come up with this sound. And this is a sound which is everywhere now. I mean, it's a really, really popular sound at the moment. It's this super intimate, super close, small, detailed, vibrant. There's two components to this. One is the performances, and we have 5 incredible musicians. It would take me too long to list their credits list, but if you look them up on AllMusic, you will be absolutely staggered at their contribution to huge hit records. But they also play in film sessions, they also play classical music. It's this great melting pot that we have in London, and these players are amazing. That's the first element of it. The second element is the sound, with the mics set up exactly as they were set up at the Eleanor Rigby session. So it's a sound that we know in our heads. It's that amazing, tight, beautiful, really close mic sound. You've got all of the kind of modern, usual stuff that we would put up, but you've also got, designed by engineer Sam Okell, you've got the vintage signal paths, which use the same gear, the actual gear from the 60s that was used on those sessions. So it's just unique, and it's... shall I play something?
No, don't want to hear it.
Here we go. Here we go.
I'm a proud London, I'm a proud Brit, and I think that what, for me, this marks is the absolute convergence point, or we always refer to London as a melting pot of cultures, but Abbey Road, but particularly this room, is that meeting point between, you know, bands like Oasis and people recording beautiful soundtracks.
Yes, it is. It's a really interesting sounding room. And when I've had an orchestra in there and been standing in there, it's almost like you're standing in a John Barry recording or something like that. It's the kind of feel you get from it. But it's incredibly popular and hugely in demand for these kind of small string sessions. Very tightly focused sound. We know that this is, you know, largely luck, that rooms either sound good or bad. Nobody really knows quite why you can design this incredible studio and it doesn't sound very good. It's just one of those blessed locations that has these 2 wonderful sounding rooms, and this is absolutely perfect for this kind of thing. So I'm going to start with, I know, one of your favourite sounds, which is long saltasto. So check this out. Spiccato or spiccatissimo. We've got a lovely pizzicato, lots of cheeky stuff going on here. And some fabulous flautando. It's like they're literally sat right next to you.
So these are ensembles, Paul, but you have all of the solo instruments as well, don't you?
So if we look down the list here, we have the 2 violins, we have the viola, cello and double bass. That's our quintet. As you can see, we have all of the same articulations, plus a little bit extra in each instrument here for violin 1. So just to give you a quick example, there's a lovely brushed articulation here. Give you a quick pizzicato. All the way down, as you can see, through the violin 2, viola, cello. Let's load up a legato of the cello. and all the way down to this fabulous rich bass. And as you can hear, it's incredibly dynamic. I'll give you an example of the cheeky pizzicato.
As always, there's more details about this and many other things in Abbey Road 2 iconic strings, linked in the video description down below. So, Paul, I think the question on everyone's lips is going to be, do I need another small ensembles library or a solo strings library?
I think it's the cat's out of the bag now that it's recorded in Abbey Road Studio 2. A studio which is obviously famous and imprinted in all of our collective memories for the sound of the strings from Eleanor Rigby, for example. It was obvious that what we should do, in addition to our normal kind of clean, very modern signal path, was there's all this amazing gear in there and all these incredible microphones that were used in the 60s on all these enormous pop hits and capture the sound of that era. So we're using the original mics, incredible mic collection of Abbey Road. We're going through the vintage red desk. We're using the parallel compression from the RS-124. And we also use the J37 tape machine. So we nerd out about all this stuff and we try and get plugins that imitate the sound of these things so we can use these sounds in our productions. But here you have the choice to use that actual sound.
So a lot of R&D has gone into this. You mentioned the Eleanor Rigby string sound. Quintet seems very small. Why was that decided upon?
Now you can see here that we have a new bit of tech. And if I quickly flick through, you can see that this is what we call the arranger. This enables you to work with this library in two different ways. The first, with multi-voice off, splits what you're playing into the 5 voices. And that sounds like this. Now here, you're only getting a single voice on each note, and you can really clearly hear the 5 players. But if we put multi-voice on, then you have the option to blend, you can set the different ranges, but it's basically anything that's in that range will get played, and that sounds like this. Now it immediately sounds bigger, and it's almost like a kind of chamber sound. And as a composer, this is what is absolutely fantastic. It's incredibly quick and easy to use. I can play things in and I can get an immediate idea of what that sounds like with the 5 players. But I can thicken up the sound by just putting the multi-voice on and have still the same intimacy, but now I've got the feeling of more weight and more players. So what makes this great, for a composer, for a track maker, is that you've got soloists, you've got quartet, quintet, but you've also got this chamber group that you can engage to give you such a huge variety, all recorded in this kind of really gritty British style. And just to give you, again, a side-by-side comparison of the arranger with our normal sustained notes, just compare 2 chords. And then we turn multi-voice on. An immediate, richer, fuller sound, and it's so much fun to play. And it's something that hasn't existed before. This is this kind of way of arranging the chords that you're playing, splitting them off into the individual sections. We've not had anything like this before. It's just a load of fun. But obviously, when you do the arrangement for real, you then go into the individual voices and work them all out that way. But the innovation doesn't stop there. We've really been upping our legato game. You've got 3 different attacks in there, but you've also got different transitions. And this one, which is kind of portamento, but it's not like portamento like we imagine it. It's got that thing. I mean, obviously you can do these. It's just really perfect for this kind of thing. What makes this unique is the way that they're playing. It's that kind of gritty British style coupled with the insane kind of mic selection and the signal paths. So starting up with mix 1, which is the one I've been playing so far. This is the kind of most modern sound. It's the nice clean close condensers and a little bit of those fabulous M50 LCR mics. Now, contrasting that with the vintage one, which uses all of the gear that we just talked about, the fantastic red desk, it's going through the parallel compression, it's going to the tape machine, it's all of that stuff that was used in the 60s. It's like the sound is being grabbed from behind. I don't know what it is. It's incredible, the effect that stuff has on it. Now, these are stereo mid mics, and these are a pair of Scherps MK21s. And if I just put up a very quick balance of these lovely warm ribbons and a little bit of ambience, you'll see the kind of blends that you can get by combining the different microphones. And one final comparison for you is to put the stereo mids up along with the close condensers, and that sounds like this.
A similar amount of R&D, I believe, went into the recordings as did the performances. And it's our first outing with this engineer, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It's Sam Okell, who is our Grammy award-winning engineer. If you just brief Google of what he's been up to over the last few years, and you'll get why he was the man for the job. He's done a lot of research into this and come up with these fabulous selections, even to the extent of going back to the ADT sound, which stands for automatic double tracking, and is this way of combining, of using, the old technology to make a signal. You can really hear it on the long notes. It almost sounds like it's kind of phasing, and it gives you that kind of slightly thicker sound, but that's a really kind of classic sound.
Now, if people aren't so interested in the mics, there's alternative versions, aren't there?
Yes, that's right. So you've got the core package, which has Mix One, the one that I was demonstrating first of all, and then Vintage One, which gives you the best of both sound worlds. You've got a very nice, clean, modern sounding mix, but you've also got that very cool, characterful sound of the vintage gear with the instruments going through that signal path as well. But if you want to dive into all of the other options as well, then you go for the Pro version, which has all of the additional mics. And I think the only other difference is that in the Legato patches, the Pro version has that extra, what we're calling not portamento, but the most expressive transition type. That is additional to the Pro version. But with the core version, you still have all the different attacks, you still have fast playing legato and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely amazing. I'm a fan of Vintage 2 myself, and I didn't know that about the ADT. So what Spitfire string library would be complete without a bit of flautando? But the reason why I picked this out is because you'll be so familiar as a Spitfire user with the sound of our famous flautando. I think that there's a really nuanced difference with this one, and that is its heritage. So if I just have a little play here. It's born more from that Buddy Holly, George Martin. It has a sensitivity and a romance to it that isn't from the concert hall. The thing that I understand about what we've achieved here is it's just a bit rock and roll, and it's very, very British, very kind of unique to these shores. And that's something that we haven't had yet, and it's so difficult to imitate. We make stuff that you and I need, and what you and I need to do is demonstrate to directors what it's going to sound like if we are to re-record it. So it's getting that slight stench of the rockers into the strings with that kind of unique Britishness.
Yes, absolutely. It's having that extra choice. It's having those extra sounds available to you. And if you want to do that super close, intimate thing, and I know we mentioned Nicholas Britell does that so fantastically. If you want that sound world, it's incredibly hard to get it unless you record it like it would be recorded in the session. And this is exactly the same approach that we've used on all of our stuff, to record things like a session, like a film session, for example, for the orchestral things, but one note at a time. This is exactly the same, but it's a different kind of session, a different way of recording. Now, if you want to blend this stuff together, people get hung up on, it's recorded in a different studio, it's not going to mix and match. We're used to that sound. We're used to the sound of film sessions are recorded all over the place.
Totally agree, Paul. I think a great example of that actually is Cruella. I know you've got daughters, so they must have seen that last year.
Yeah.
But it was huge aperture changes and these kind of strings, and then getting bigger when it was required.
Exactly. And if you even want to sit this sound on top of, another string sound. There's all kinds of ways of doing it. You can either do it using, our methods, which is just, put a bit of reverb on it and it'll all come together. So if you change the reverb to large hall, effectively you can sit the players in that bigger space. And the benefit of that is that if you're using this in combination with an orchestral library that's been recorded in a bigger space, and with a more, hall-like sound, then you can use them as first chairs or soloists. Works absolutely beautifully. Artistically, you might want it to, you might want to have that kind of feeling of kind of lushness or whatever. This really sounds beautiful if you play it through a nice big reverb. It's just a completely different sound again. Immediately you're transported into a different space. But look at all these fantastic reverbs that we've sampled and put together for you. These are the Studio 2 plate in Abbey Road, set to different lengths. I mean, it's just some great stuff. If I just go for the most ridiculous, which is the 5-second one. You can hear that. And if we just turn up the reverb.
Mirek Stiles, he's the facilitator of this entire project. He took me around the chamber that had just a faint smell of kind of, I don't know, damp and spliff. And which I very much enjoyed. And it's an extraordinary space. So basically a room where you put a speaker at one end and a microphone at the other. And we even caught that, didn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the close vintage mic up on this viola Spiccartissimo. And I've got this fantastic Studio 2 chamber up. And let's dial it up and give it plenty of welly. It's the sound of what it is, a chamber with a mic at one end and a speaker at the other end. Fabulous stuff.
Well, it's an absolute triumph, Paul. I'm sure there'll be some people who want to find out even more. You've done a really big detailed walkthrough, haven't you?
Yeah, I have. That's on the website right now. It's been a sprawling, huge project that has taken enormous resources to achieve. It encompasses all kinds of stuff. It's got the history of British pop music, the history of Abbey Road Studios, but it also brings us up to date with this incredible, immediate, sound like you're surrounded by these players. I could be sat cross-legged right in the middle of these 5 players. It's just a completely different thing to anything I've ever heard before from a solo strings library.
A fantastic realisation of a fantastic opportunity, and I'm sure the composing community will join me in thanks to you for being the architect of this, but all of the hard work from Spitfire Audio and the opportunity presented to us and commitment by Abbey Road. It's just an incredible partnership.
Yeah, we're incredibly grateful, and we want to say thanks very much to Mirek and the team at Abbey Road for all of the work that they've done and for all of the assistance with the research and looking at, the old session plans and all of that kind of stuff. It's just been absolutely fascinating. And I know that Harry at Spitfire and Sam have had a lot of fun going into the kind of, the real kind of, we're all nerds, aren't we, really? So it's just been absolutely brilliant finding out all this incredible information from these legendary sessions.
Passionate British nerds, and this is a passion project indeed. If you want to find out more about this fantastic opportunity, check out the links down below. One of those to the dozens of people who've put in so much time to make this a reality for our community. Do subscribe to our channel. There's some really interesting stuff coming up, including possibly a cribs. Ding that bell to be notified the next time we put a video up. And, well, it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him.